Welcome to Wire Girls. This is a quick make tutorial, really fast and easy to make ring, and it looks like it's a stacked ring. It looks like you've got several little rings on your finger at one time. You're not going to need much in the way of materials. Some 20 gauge or 0.8mm round wire, and some of the little tiny seed beads or any little beads that will go and actually thread onto your wire. This is the reason why I love these seed beads, because they go on. You need to mark up your ring mandrel and know where you're working. And once you do, you pop your wire on and cross it over at the top. This is always harder for me to do because I'm working under the camera, but I'm coming all the way around again. So I've got sort of one wire through the middle, and then one wire going to the left and one wire going to the right, which gives me two wires at the back, so you can see those. So I've got some little tiny seed beads. Now apparently you can stick the end of the wire in and just thread the beads on, but I've never managed to make it do it. So I'll have to put them on properly. Some of these little tiny seed beads won't actually go on the wire, they'll refuse, and I always just put those off to one side, but the majority of them thread on quite nicely. But if you wanted to use any kind of metal beads, they usually have larger holes, so little silver beads or copper beads or something like that. They have bigger holes, you could use those. And I'm just going to thread some on. I'm aiming so that when this is on the top of my finger, it looks like this sort of beads most of the way around. And I like these as well because they can move a little bit. So I'm sliding these down around the wire so that they're going into that second loop. There you go. So that's going to be the top of the ring. Now turn it around and let's have a different colour bead, and I'll put different colours on the other side. So it looks like you've got two rings on. One ring's got one colour beads on and the other ring has got another colour of beads, making it look like two different rings, which is what we're aiming for. So just get these on. That was one that just wouldn't go onto the wire. They come in handy because then what I do is I use them in projects where I'm using a finer gauge wire, that's all. So they're never wasted. Let's just get a couple more of these on. You don't need to have exactly the same number if you don't want, because of course what you're doing is you're aiming for something that looks like two different rings. So they don't necessarily have to have the same number. But I might just take one or two of these little blue ones off. I might want to be even this time. There we go. Don't worry about them moving around. I like that. The beads are not loose, they're kinetic. So I'm going to slide my ring back onto my ring mandrel. So I'm going back to the marks that I originally made to get the right sizing for my finger. And I'm going to take my two wires against each other and wrap them around neatly and tightly. What I'm going for is it will end up as a little tiny swirl. Very flat, not bulky, not poking up at all. Cut some of this length off. I probably needed about 10 inch, which is about 25 centimetres. But I always have to give myself a bit more just in case. And then I'm going to take that end inside the ring and very carefully wrap it around. Only going around once, and then I'm trimming it off on the outside of the ring so that there is nothing on the inside to scratch against your finger. Other end, and go around. Up you come and snip. Press that end down. Make sure these ends are firmly pressed in and that you don't go beyond the width of the wire, because then it will poke into your finger when you move your hand. So you've got a very sweet little ring that sits nice and neat there. That's comfortable. And then you've got these two rows of beads on the top. I've got really big hands, so it doesn't look that brilliant on my hand. It's more of a delicate little wiggly ring for smaller hands than mine. So I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to wrap around once. Now that would give me the 2 wires on the back as we did before, but I'm going to go around again. And probably again. So I've now got 4 wires that are going to be on the top of my finger. Now you can do this as many times as you want. You can do these quite big with, 6, 8 wires. I find if you get much beyond 8, it's getting a little bit cumbersome at the back, but you can still do it. So let me get some beads out. You work in the same way with threading on, but before, when we only had two coils, we could use the 2 wires to add the beads. Now we've got more coils, so you've got to make sure that the right beads are on the right coil. So get some of these on. I must admit they look super effective if you do like sort of a row of silver beads and then a row of coloured beads and then maybe just 1 or 2 larger beads and a bare wire. They look great. But let's just get some more of these on. Now I'm going to slide it on and it will drop onto that first loop, but I'm going to push it round so the beads sit at the beginning of the second loop. Now I'm only going to do 2 loops with beads. I'm going to just stick them to the same colour. But you can use, like I said, anything you want. And these are going to go so that I've got like a hit one, miss one. I've got like a beaded, what looks like a beaded ring, and then a plain ring, and then a beaded ring, and then a plain ring. On you go. So that one I will only slide down onto the first loop. Once I've fastened the back, even if the beads roll around like they are doing now all over the place, they can't actually move onto a different loop once I've fastened the back. So they will stay in the loop that they're meant to, and they won't whiz round and go onto different circles. So back onto my ring mandrel. So you could have done all 4 of those if you'd wanted, or just 1 of them. And again, pull the wires against one another and wrap them around and around again, and it makes a lovely, sweet little sort of tight knot. Bring the wires together. Just flatten down that loop that I made. Trim off some of this excess. And then take the pliers on the end of the wire and just ease it through the middle of your ring and pull it tight. Flatten it down, wrap it over and snip it off. If you want to go over again, you could go around again and then flatten it down. I do keep saying there's no right and wrong in wire jewellery. There's only new designs. The tutorials I do are to guide you in a way of something new and really to make your mind then sped on to what you want to do with it. So I've taken the other wire, shortened it down a bit and then pulled it through tight. Pull it so it's neat and then trim off on the top. I will now press that in. I love this little knot on the back. It's so sweet and it's so neat that it makes it quite comfortable. Whoops. Now that's not quite big enough for that finger, so if I put it on there and I just give it a bit of a shove, it should, ooh, yeah, there we go. The reason that was a little bit tighter is because there's more wires, so it's a bit thicker. So they can whiz around if they want. I can splay the ring out slightly, and then if I didn't have such fat fingers, when I put that on, it would look like sort of 4 separate rings. Now because I splayed the back out, I just need to splay the top out. I need to tighten that back up. But there we go. Very simple, very quick to make, Great for Christmas presents, on stock if you need it for the table. It's a pretty little delicate ring. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick make. Happy wrapping!